What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. We are covering the rumors. This past weekend, a lot of stuff has come out from The Athletic, from Ken Rosenthal, from Will Salmon, Dennis Lin, the Padres reporter. A lot of rumors out there in the world connecting the Mets to pretty much everybody, it seems like, which is a shocker. The team with the most money is getting connected to all the major players and free agents and moves. We'll talk about all those in today's episode. Before we do, make sure you're subscribed to the Mets'd podcast, not just on YouTube, but also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and check the link in the description. We got Mets'd merch, great Christmas gifts, great Hanukkah gifts, great Kwanzaa gifts, whatever you celebrate in December, get some gifts. We appreciate you guys. But James, let's talk about these rumors, because I think the people went crazy for the Jorge Polanco reaction, so I can't wait for what the next move with the Mets could be for our views.
Yeah, shout out to you guys for that one. I didn't think the whole world would be zoned in on the Mets signing Jorge Polanco late in a Saturday morning, but it happened, and again, I said it then, say it now. I think the biggest thing to draw from this is I don't know what they're doing next.
Nope.
Like, we have reports out there that the Mets are interested in Mason Miller. We have another report out there the Mets are still interested in Lars Nootbaar. MLB Network had a tweet. The Mets are shifting their focus to Luis Robert and Mason Miller. We're being heavily connected still to Kyle Tucker. And I really just think, like...
Nick Pivetta, too.
Yeah, Nick Pivetta, too. Like, but what we can glean, I think, from all of this is that I think that this is just going to be an opportunistic Mets offseason. I don't think there's this A, B, C, D plan like we kind of hope there is. But I think we're just going to siphon off and get the guys that we think can fill out this roster. And, you know, if Kyle Tucker wants to sign a 5-year deal for a crazy AV, I think he'll be a Met.
Yeah, so shout out the Wind-Up, where we talk about, like, all baseball in general. And we've been going through some old off seasons, giving our opinions on the contracts that have been signed. And looking back, a lot of the best contracts that get signed end up happening towards the end of the offseason. And even if you look at the David Stearns era and a lot of the Mets moves that they've made, Frankie Montas signed early, turned out not to be one of the best deals. Like, a lot of the ones where they've maybe been a little too aggressive at times turned out being poor. So maybe this is a good spot for the Mets to be a little patient, even though it doesn't feel good. It gives me agita to be like, I don't know who's playing what position this year. Mark Vientos is still on this team. Is he going to be our first baseman? Is who's going to play the outfield? Are we going to have Carson Bench? What's going on with the rotation? What's going on with the bullpen? Like, there are still so many question marks, and I think that's an extremely uncomfortable feeling for a team that massively disappointed last year and arguably is way worse on paper than that team was last season. That doesn't feel good, but I think, like you said, the Mets are going to wait and look for their opportunity to strike for the kind of players and the quality of players that they want. And I guess Jorge Polanco fit that. That's the one confusing part of this whole thing.
I guess so. But also, I think there's a difference between patience with the trademark and the patience with free agency. Like, I do think the Polanco market moved quickly. I think they just gave him the highest AAV, so we wound up taking it. But I think that, and Will Sam has echoed this point a few times. If you guys haven't been keeping up with Will this offseason, his reporting for the Athletic's been impeccable. It's been a newsbreaker on Twitter now. Like, he is talking about rising. He's like a rocket shot out of his ass. But I think that the next big thing I have to think happens for the Mets seems like a trade, because there's been so much smoke around this Mets-Padres connection, which at the first, when I heard it, it didn't make the most sense to me, honestly, but also still around the Mets and Cardinals thing. But just the amount of reporting we continue to get out of it from Will, from Dennis Lin, from Ken Rosenthal, it makes me think that these teams are trying to get something done. I think the way they line up, oddly enough, is that the Mets do have the number one thing the Padres want, which is relatively young but controllable starting pitching.
Yeah.
And like, if the Padres can trade 1 year of Nick Pivetta for like 3, 4, 5 years of a conglomerate of other guys, or if they can exchange Mason Miller for what I assume would they ask for Jonah Tong.
At least Jonah Tong, yeah.
It seems like that's where the most smoke with this is. The Mets wanting to consolidate some talent and the Padres wanting some volume, which works for the Mets.
Yeah, because ultimately we know at the end of the day that the Padres are selling. This organization's in a very weird spot. And for a team that's like tried to win every single year, which I applaud them for, it hasn't amounted to anything, hasn't amounted in a World Series appearance, not really anything to show for it. And at some point, they are probably going to go to a more, I don't want to say sustainable, like, outcome or the way that they run the organization. But AJ Preller can't keep trading every single prospect ever to go get major league players and then not have anything to show for it. So maybe this is a step backwards to go forwards for them at some point. I don't know what a package, though, for like a lot of these guys would look like, because they're all desirable. They're all on good deals. Like, what do you actually give up for a Mason Miller? What do you give up for Nick Pivetta?
I think that, again, I think the Mason Miller, Jonah Tong would be the thing. I also don't even think I'd want to do that. Like, I think that the Mets have...
Ooh, I think I would.
The Mets have so many holes on this team right now. I really can't give up one of the best assets we have in this organization to get a closer. I just can't. Like,
What if he then becomes a starter?
Then how good of a starter do you really think he is? Like, do you think
He
you
probably
could
still
flip
throws 97, and then he's probably pretty good. He throws a ton of strikes.
for the guy that's never been able to stay healthy? Now only was able to do that pitching in relief. Do you want to take that risk and make him the starter?
I think sometimes if you're trying to be great, you got to make crazy moves. Listen, I understand both sides. I just you see the quality of player that Mason Miller is, and just how
definitely
unbelievably good he is. Also, in the bullpen, we see he could just go like 2 innings at a time when he gets used. That's an unbelievable weapon right there. We've always talked about like the Mets could really use like a swingman stretch role, and while would be a different way of using it, what if now like for when Mason Miller comes into the game 50, 60 times a year, might be 2 innings at a time.
It's possible. I do think also that there was a line that Will had in his piece that the Mets were considering something like that for Brandon Sproat this year if he didn't get into the rotation in the early part of the season. He also cited the way that David Stearns' Brewers kind of eased in Corbin Burns and Freddie Peralta in roles like that until they developed their repertoires and were able to do it. But there's such odd specificities in some of this reporting that really again makes me think there's a lot of smoke here. Like Ken Rosenthal specifically named Jonathan Pintaro.
That's crazy.
I mean, just like to pluck Jonathan Pintaro's name off of our 40-man roster. When we signed Pintaro, if it was like Montana, David Stearns found him 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna find it because when he got his call up, I remember we went like deep dive into Jonathan Pintaro, and I'm like he played I think like in the Frontier League, which funny enough, someone we went to high school with, shout out Steve Barmakian, he like played in the Frontier League. We're like, wait, this guy was like teammates with him? What the hell?
And like he's a little bit older, but Pintaro also definitely has some really cool pitch specs because he's a low slot guy. He gets up to the upper 90s.
Pioneer League, the Glacier Range Riders in Kalispell, Montana.
Wow, that's nice. Love that. But when he came up with the Mets last year briefly, it was kind of a bit of a disaster, and I think some Mets fans are going to paint him in that light. But it seemed like he was really trying to simplify his repertoire because he was only a few innings, but it was all fastballs and cutters. But he did have a sweeper and a changeup and a sinker in the minor leagues. I know the Baseball Prospectus guys, Jared Seiler and Jeffrey Pasternostra, were like soft comping him to like what Michael King was like before he broke out, just from that low slot with sweep with an upper 90s fastball, even harder than Michael King ever threw. But again, this is kind of what the Padres want. You know what I mean? Like they want a volume shop. Like if we want Adrian Morejon and we give them David Peterson and Jonathan Pintaro, they're like, oh my God.
Sure, yes.
That's saying like for them, they could have just bought 260 innings for like just a high leverage reliever that maybe we make a starter after that. It's a weird mix. And I think that maybe some Mets fans are excited by this. Maybe some Mets fans are terrified by this. Like, I think we're going to get something really creative that happens soon because we have gluts on this roster. Like, we still have some redundancies of Ronnie Mauricio, Luis Angel Acuna, Mark Vientos. We have like this just big mash of 4 and 5 and 6 starters that we don't really have still any really 1s and 2s besides Nolan McLean. Like there's something here to go back and forth, just kind of figuring out what it is right now.
Yeah, I don't know if the Mets will move Tong still.
I don't think so either.
Just like you mentioned, like again, and shout out Joe DeMayer for DMing me this, where he's like, if he didn't pitch those 17 innings, he'd be untouchable. You would be like, there's no world where we're trading Jonah Tong. So I think we have to keep that in mind too sometimes. Like I think the baseball world, I think still keeps him in very, very high regard as one of the top possible arms that could be coming up.
Well, I think obviously, but we also saw the value of Mason Miller this past trade deadline, where he went for Leo DeVries, who's like a top 10 prospect in the game. He looks like a possible shortstop that can hit the next level.
Might have been a bad trade for AJ Preller.
It was 1,000,000,000% a bad trade. And we said at the time, we did our trade rankings on the wind-up when it happened. I was like, it's a bad trade. It's not even on my top 5 trades because the trade sucks. And I do think that there was like a little bit of smoke between the Mets and Mason Miller at the trade deadline too. And I bet that the ask again was Jonah Tong, because Jonah Tong is he's in the sweet spot for a team to want to trade for because he got his feet wet in the major leagues. You see the potential. He's like, you could get him in a rotation next year and something can be happening. This is still one of the best pitching prospects in the game. You need a haul if you give him up.
Yeah, like it's just it would cost a lot from both sides, and that's what makes it so interesting. Like you said, it is kind of a perfect fit. The Padres have a lot of things that would help this Mets team out right now, and the Mets have exactly what the Padres would need, which is a lot of young players that will be free for a while and will be pretty good. The Mets farm system's loaded.
Even a guy like, again, I mentioned David Peterson before. He seems like the exact kind of guy the Padres would want, just to be like, give us 150 innings of a 4.0 ERA. But also, I'm sure they'd be very interested in a guy like Kodai Senga.
Yeah.
I'm sure them buying low on Senga is kind of exactly what they're looking for. I don't know exactly if that's what the Mets want to give, but in this article, Rosenthal and Dennis Lin and Salmon, it was mentioned Pavetta, Laureano, Mason Miller, Adrian Morejon, Jeremiah Estrada. So that's the Mets still want to take a shot in the corner
Jeremiah
outfielder.
Estrada would be sick.
But we looked at this the other day too. He has 4 years of control left.
Yeah.
He could be one of the 15 best relievers in baseball.
And this is where it's like, what is actually the value for these guys? Because again, it's one of these weird trade scenarios where it's not like the Padres have no leverage, but they also do because the players are that good. But we know that they're trying to get rid of them.
This strikes me as a fantasy baseball type of trade. Because these are also two teams who intend to be competing for the same playoff spots
With
next
each
year.
other, yeah.
In a very serious way. And again, I can't get past the fact that Ken Rosenthal said Pintaro specifically. How's he a name that comes up?
Jonathan Pintaro threw, I think, he threw, how many pitches was this? Baseball?
I think they're 2 innings last year, right?
Yeah, he faced 6 batters last year at the major league
Maybe
level.
1/3 then?
2/3 of an inning.
Yeah.
That is an insane name to mention.
But again, he's on a 40-man roster. He's a little bit older. I think he can handle a workload, and he has very interesting pitch traits. I think there's another theme this offseason. We're looking for traits out here. No one cares about Jonathan Pintaro's ERA in AAA or the major leagues. Low slot, 97, has a sweeper. That's something. It's in this Padres team. I don't think they're ready to. I didn't hear Nobel yet. I think for this Padres team, for AJ Preller trying to compete.
As long as he's still the GM of that team. The fat lady hasn't sang yet. But once he's gone, that's when you know the Padres are selling everybody.
For all the parents out there with teenagers like Kratz, we know life's a little crazy.
Yeah, Cash App's here to not add to the craziness. They're here to help.
Yeah, Kratz, Cash App is designed to meet teens aged 13 to 17 where they are with intuitive educational tools. Available through sponsorship by an eligible parent or guardian, teens gain access to a personalized Cash App card. With the Cash App card, you and your teen's balances receive 24/7 fraud monitoring, and if something ever feels off, you have the ability to lock their card right from your phone in just one tap. Download Cash App and get started today. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use code FAMILY10 in their profile at sign-up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Direct deposit and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures.
But also, if maybe he doesn't go, maybe the next owners want him to do this. But if they're going to sell everybody, they're going to sell everybody. They wouldn't be looking for these types of players that they're apparently connected to now. Maybe you still would go for the guys like Brandon Sproat and I guess Tong in a very different world. But they probably do have a lot more value than I guess the Mets do at this exact moment for these back end starter types. They traded Juan Soto for a slew of back end starting pitchers,
2 of which we were are never going to be good.
And they also, at the trade deadline, they kind of dumped a lot of these guys who were these guys for them on their team in Ryan Berger and Stephen Kolek to go to the Royals
to get Freddie Fermin.
To get Freddie Fermin.
Made
It was
no sense.
Great defensive catcher, was steadied the game for them and got a big hit for them in the wild card series, but it was just still this team doesn't have a DH. They could use a better offensive catcher. They have negative bench. They have kind of one starting pitcher unless you count Joe Musgrove off as Tommy John. It's after Pavetta and Musgrove, it's Randy Vasquez, JP Sears, Kyle Hart. And then right now their projected rotation
Where's Johnny Brito at?
I don't even know if he's around these days. He's in AAA. They have Matt Waldron, Jagger Haynes, Jackson Wolf. There's some interesting.
How many times we're going to give Matt Waldron a shot?
But I'm saying they desperately, if they want to compete, they desperately need a 3, 4, 5, and 6 starter.
Yeah, and the Mets do have a lot of that.
The Mets can provide that. I just don't know how much quality you have to give up to get Mason Miller. And again, to me right now at this juncture, that doesn't seem like the spot where it's worth the Mets pushing their chips in.
No, I agree. Even though I would love him, I'm not going to complain. But I feel like the names that would go in a Mason Miller trade, similarly, the names that went in the Mason Miller trade or the name that went in Mason Miller trade, you're that got to get you more, even though Mason Miller is a premier pitcher at his position.
Yeah, and there's probably also a little bit of a referendum on what the trade deadline is like versus the offseason.
Yeah.
The idea there's a deadline. We have 36 minutes to make this trade. We got to make it right now. If you don't give me this, we're not making the trade. And AJ Preller's I got to make the trade. We also got some other funny news that's leaked out that Mark Vientos hired Scott Boras to be his agent.
Which,
that's
a confusing one, but hey.
Honestly, yeah, good for him. The Phillies signed Adolis Garcia, which I think takes them a little bit more out of the Luis Robert sweepstakes, which it seems like the Mets are front and center of. It seems like they might be the only team involved in this. And
which
again,
I really like.
This might be a situation, like we said about Patience, where David Stearns has an offer on the table he's okay with, and if the White Sox don't do it, they're just going to have Luis Robert this year. And if they do it, then we're going to get Luis Robert at the price that we want.
Yeah, Vientos, Acuna, I think those are the guys that they've got to be looking to trade. We mentioned in the Polanco video, but like both of them having no options and both of them kind of being redundant now on this team due to Jorge Polanco for different reasons. I don't know how you really hold these guys and how they really bring a ton of value to the Mets roster when you could probably go out and get someone who could make an actual impact on this Mets roster, be an everyday player.
Definitely, and we've rehashed the Luis Robert thing a few times, and you guys, you're kind of either in our camp or you're not in our camp.
And I love both sides. I love seeing how violently angry people get at us for saying we want Robert, and I also love the people who are probably drinking the Kool-Aid a little too much.
Yeah, which is, again, totally fine, but we said this in the Polanco video. I just think that we've got an evaluation on every guy out there right now, and like you're going to kind of say yes or no, just depending on if that spot gets to you, which is how I think we've now come back again on these Mets Kyle Tucker rumors.
Yep.
It feels like the Kyle Tucker market is nowhere near as robust as it seemed when the offseason began. At this point, I think I'd be shocked if he saw $500 million, but I think some people thought it could get close to when the offseason began as well.
I think there's no shot. I think there's not a shot in the world he gets even close to that right now.
So I think every single day where it goes on, and there has been a reporting that the Mets are involved in this. At
bullish.
Least some of the other bigger teams, there's a shot there. I think that every day that passes where he's not getting a 10-year deal, I think that makes the Mets closer and closer to actually moving their way in there.
It does feel like a game of chicken between the Mets, the Dodgers, and the Blue Jays. Like, who's going to make that offer where Kyle Tucker's like, oh, shit, this is really the best one I'm going to get? And I don't think any of them are budging right now because it seems like all three of those teams know Kyle Tucker's really good. It seems like all three of those teams know he's going to be an impact bat for them, make you already a much better team than you were. Definitely. It's just, can we squeeze him for a little extra juice? And it feels like all three of them are like, let's play this game. Who's going to budge first?
Especially when, again, trying to read through the lines of Will Salmon's article he put in The Athletic on Monday. New York is eyeing another bat, league sources said. And this comes after Jorge Polanco, of course. It would be surprising if the Mets didn't supplement their outfield. Such an addition may or may not come in the form of a star player, though. Despite the desire to be a better defensive team than last year, the Mets believe they now have enough flexibility to seek more of a bat-first player. People familiar with their conversation said. So the addition could be someone for the outfield or could be someone who occupies more time as designated hitter. It just seems like this door is being very purposely left open for this one crazy thing to happen. I know that we've gotten a little addicted to the splash as Mets fans over the last few years, and now we're getting reverse splashes like last week. We're still not even a week removed from all of our hearts being collectively ripped out. But I think there is a lot of value in trying to be opportunistic. And the part of the market that moved quickly, it seems like already moved quickly. And now you wait.
Yeah, I think the next like big dominoes that are going to fall are going to be the Japanese players. Because
they have to.
Because they have to. They physically have to. Like Murakami has to be signed in a week, I believe, at the time of recording, which is insane. Yeah. And you've heard, again, nothing. Not a word about anybody interested in Murakami. I'm like, I can't get a read on what the Mets are doing this offseason. I can't get a read on what Major League Baseball's doing this offseason. The Twins just signed Josh Bell. Like, the Phillies signed Adolis Garcia. I'm so confused because, like, you could close your eyes and be like, Nick Castellanos and Adolis Garcia are going to be the exact same player next year, and you're going to end up having to
offensively.
Adolis Garcia was horrible defensively, horrible.
He had the knee thing 2 years ago. He still has a cannon. I think
this
you
year
can still
too,
get.
He was so bad. He was one of the worst outfielders defensively in baseball. I think he might be cooked out there defensively.
I think you still get a good year of Adolis Garcia defensively. I do, but like also like 1 year, $10 million. Like some people are like, can't believe the Mets missed this one. I wouldn't really want to do that. He was above average OAA this year. With one of the best arms in the league. Yeah,
no,
he was.
Do I like only think of 2024 numbers?
Yeah, I think sometimes you do that.
All right. Another hand up. Because 2024, he was horrendous. Holy crap!
2 years ago, he had that bulky knee for like the whole year, and they just ran him out there every single day. Anyway,
that was a mistake.
It is kind of amazing that Adolis Garcia has taken almost 1,100 at bats in the last 2 years,
and has like a 650 OPS.
Yeah, and again, like they kind of just were like, let's get Cuban Castellanos.
Were they playing him in center at one point too? That in
2024. They were still playing him in center at a decent bit.
But even then, it's probably like similar-ish value to Castellanos next year.
Something to that degree. No, he only played right in 2024 too. He hasn't played center since 2023.
That's good.
But he's like, I don't know. Like that to me is also a big indication the Phillies are not going to be in on the big money stuff this offseason too. Like
doesn't seem like it. It seems like they got Schwarber and they're like, okay, how do we get better around the edges? Which probably also isn't the worst decision for them either. It's not like the Phillies stink.
No, definitely. Phillies are a good team. Like it's also a kind of a funny thing to compare the Mets and the Phillies, where it's like from the Phillies' perspective, I'd be very happy to run back that core. Like, you still feel like that core has a lot left to do, where this Mets core that were clearly not running back at this point in the offseason, it did feel like every single player is past their peak.
Should we talk about the Juan Soto comments a little bit?
Yeah, we could talk about those too. Just a hodgepodge episode.
Yeah, hodgepodge episode. It's going to be mostly rumors, but Juan Soto talking at the Dominican Sports Awards or wherever he was, where he won Dominican Athlete of the Year, which shout out Juan Soto. Damn
Second
right.
year in a row.
Second
The
year
Juan
in a row.
Marichal Award.
Yeah. And they brought up like Pete Alonso and everything going on, and Francisco Lindor, and he was like, yeah, we kind of knew Pete wasn't coming back. Like, I keep in contact with the club. I'm talking to everybody. I know what's going on with this team. It seemed like everybody in the Mets world knew that Pete Alonso wasn't coming back except Mets fans.
Yeah, and also now looking back, and you guys heard us talk to Disha last Friday, like, it definitely did feel like that. It seemed like the one that was the weird, surprising one was Edwin Diaz. We
Yes.
saw him have some comments. I think that was at the Puerto Rican Winter League Home Run Derby, where talked about how it seemed like Lindor was very surprised that Diaz didn't come back.
Yes.
And there was like there was a call that was made between them, but then Diaz just harped over and over and over again that he basically just wanted to go chase a ring.
And it's something we've talked about ad nauseum, where it's like, for Edwin Diaz, who, if he continues on the path that he's on, has a chance to be like a Hall of Fame closer, and he probably needs a ring to really push himself over the top.
You get some big high leverage.
That was like
late postseason saves.
That was like the big knock on some relievers that have taken forever to get in the Hall of Fame.
But it is funny now as these reports and rumors trickle out. Like, some people in the Mets, I mean, these aren't people in the Mets world. These are some of the mutants on Twitter. Were like offended that like Juan Soto keyed in with the plans. Like,
Yeah, why? Why
This
is
guy's
there
been
such disdain for Juan Soto?
I don't know. There feels like there's a lot of disdain for Juan Soto too right now, like in media, which I think is really weird. And shout out Master Flip. Master Flip is really good on Twitter. He's Dominican. He translates these things very well, efficiently. People like laud him for his translations on that. So it's strange the way these Soto comments leak out sometimes and the way people perceive them, just because he's really good and makes a lot of money.
I mean, it's crazy to me. We've been seeing like some short form stuff from Jolly Olive, where like they asked who's a better contract right now, Soto or Vlad Guerrero Jr., like who's going to age well, and the reporters are just straight up lying about the kind of player. Like, Vlad Jr. is awesome. This is not anything against Vlad Jr., but it's like, he plays great first base, he's more athletic. I'm like, none of these things are true. And then they're like, Soto, he's gonna age out of the outfield, he's gonna be a DH. I'm like, he's a better athlete right now, plays a harder position, and is a better hitter. Like, what? We just don't like Juan Soto because he's the highest paid athlete who doesn't want to talk to you?
But also, if you flipped it around to the other side, if you had this conversation with them exactly 1 year ago, before Soto signed the deal, but also after last postseason, everyone said Soto because of his heroics last postseason. As Vlad did this. Like, there's a lot of recency bias that plays into the way that we perceive these players. And you know right now, doing your 12 days of ranking, sometimes last year really holds a lot of value in your head.
Of course, me, never biased, never recency.
But it's just, I don't know. Like, I think a lot of people want to continue to go after and pull this ridiculous string about the Mets clubhouse. I think it's kind of becoming a tree that we can't really understand why it keeps getting barked up. And
Ha-Sung Kim to the Braves on a 1 year, $20 million deal.
It's a good deal.
Is it?
I'd take that. Yeah, I mean, they didn't have anyone else.
Do you know what his defense was last year? I know this for a fact. It was bad.
I think that them signing him to that is like, we hope the shoulder's better.
I guess, yeah.
Again, like they were shortstop less, and they need to do something like that.
Mauricio
But,
Dubon.
we're talking about that. So Nolan McClain also similar went on Pitching Ninjas podcast over the weekend, and that was a sensational interview. If you guys want to have like pitching porn, like, you should go listen to everything that Nolan McClain said on that, because it was absolutely like lockout unbelievable. And he talks he's like, oh, this clubhouse was great, such a fun clubhouse. I really like being a part of it. And again, he got there later in the season, and he was like, yeah, this is great. He had no agenda. He's like, yeah, fun clubhouse.
Like, listen, I want to get a big head here for a second, but I really wish like baseball world could have seen our podcast with Disha, because she also, like, a very prominent reporter, very credible inside the clubhouse. Like, there's nothing wrong in there. It's like, it seems like everybody from the outside likes to think that there's something wrong, and then everybody that's inside goes, it was fine. They're just not best friends. That happens. This isn't a problem.
And you're just not winning. Like, if you're not winning, this stuff all looks a lot worse. Like, if the Mets won 2 more games last year, I feel like a lot of these narratives wouldn't have happened. But that's also where we're at, and we deserve it. So it is an uncomfortable time in the offseason for you guys all specifically as Mets fans, because you see a very incomplete team as of December 15th, 16th when you're listening to this. And you want, after the excitement of last year and last offseason, you wanted to keep momentum going.
Yes.
And we've stopped all the momentum flat, and we've lost a lot of your guys' favorite players. Like, that part sucks. And I'm still not really over half it, but like, looking around, like, I'm definitely more excited as the days go on for like what can happen next. And also, I think that the Jorge Polanco move, while like in a vacuum, it does seem just very regular. Like, you just got a guy that can hit, and we'll see if he winds up playing first base. But like, that's at least an indication from management that we're still going to try. People people
yes.
think there's going to be a rebuilding year. Like, you can let the young guys play while also not rebuilding and competing for a wild card spot. Like, we were ass last year, mega ass,
So
super
bad.
turbo ass, and like we were still one game from the postseason with 83 wins. It's like, if you just, again, this is something you don't want to hear. If you just shoot for 87, 88 every year.
God.
But that does seem like what actually is happening right now. It seems like they're not ready to go in on a team that can like beat the Dodgers, but it seems like they're going to go in on a team that can get to the dance.
Yeah,
Which I don't think that's the best strategy either, but I think that's what they're doing.
no, it's a scary world. It's a scary world out there being a Mets fan right now. I don't like it. It's so uncomfortable. We applaud David Stearns for the like secrecy and the quiet and everything. And it worked in the past because we got the players we wanted. And now that we don't got the players that we want, I'm like, I hate this shit. Please give me any inkling of it, a sense of what's going on.
Which is why it is kind of funny that we're like harping on all these rumors and talking about all these players we're connected with and reporting. But then they just signed Jorge Polanco, and there was
Out
not
of
one
nowhere.
person, pundit, journalist, analyst, YouTube channel, anybody out there that ever would have connected Jorge Polanco to the Mets, let alone to be their first baseman.
Our boy Wardy makes content on any single thing that goes on in the Mets world. First Jorge Polanco mention is basically when they signed him. Like, if Wardy doesn't have it, it's not out there.
Yeah, again, like I think the Jorge Polanco signing is just objectively good. It's cool. It's fine.
The only thing I will say, it is weird, like, to want to pay Jorge Polanco at age like 33 and 34, $20 million a year, and you're like, I'm worried about Pete at age 34 and 35 when.
Well, I think if Jorge Polanco wanted a 5-year deal, I don't think we would have signed him.
No, I know, but
I think if
they
Pete-
are different. It's an age.
No, I know. If Pete wanted a 2-year deal, we would have signed him
I
too.
wanted Pete back. I miss him. I can't.
I do miss Pete.
I haven't watched the Orioles press conference. I can't do it.
No, I can't. He does seem really happy.
He
Like,
crushed it.
He got a wicked bag on that, and they're going to love him. But like, I think there's also very much two sides to this coin. There's a lot of revisionist history when a guy like that leaves, where we do always remember the best of times ever. But like, if Pete didn't hit the home run against the Brewers last season, I think a lot of people would have had a different perspective, even if he came back for this 1 year.
Yeah, well, we always felt weird because we're like, people hated Pete, like he isn't clutch, and we're like, I mean, Pete's really good, guys. Like, I feel like we're missing the context, and now that he had the good year after the big moment, people completely forgot about how much they hated him for a season when he couldn't get the big hit. He only hit home runs like A-Rod up 9.
Yeah, and then also the flip side of this is like there's also some revisionist history that like Pete wasn't as good as we remember, but Pete was still really good. Like
was awesome.
our guy Meek Phil, he had a great cut up of all of Pete's errors he made last year. And there were some really bad ones in there, but I'm like, I'm not ready to be like I hate Pete Alonso just because he signed somewhere else.
Not.
It's just I think the thing we all have to get on board with, and we don't have to get on board with, but like acknowledge is that the Mets seemingly had no interest whatsoever to bring him back.
Nope.
Like
Did seem like it.
there was not really any way, shape, or form that he was going to fit into whatever plan they have on the contract demands he got and what the market was going to pay him.
It seems
That's
like Juan Soto knew the entire time.
Yeah, it does not seem like that. Maybe Lindor did too. I mean, Nolan McClain in that interview with Pitching Ninja, he was like, "Pete was such a great guy. We've been texting."
We got to talk about that article too from Joel Sherman. That Steve
Oh.
Cohen needs to sit down Juan Soto and
forgot about that
Francisco
one.
Lindor.
Oh, so let's do that. Let's do a double medium over right here, I guess,
Yeah,
as we
double
ease out of
medium
this
Marvel.
episode. So that was the one. Do you have it pulled up? Do you have a headline or anything?
I will. I'll get to the DMs right now. But Joel Sherman wrote an article, and listen, like Joel's a pro's pro. I don't necessarily agree
He
with
is.
everything that he says, and I think at times he does kind of venture into the realm of like, what the fuck are we doing here? But his tweet from December 13th, shout out Drew and Christie, Steve Cohen should meet with Lindor/Soto. If they're good with each other, discuss how to avoid repeating the 2025 disaster. But if the relationship is a problem, then for the $1 billion plus all in on the duo, the Mets owner has a right to say, let's fix this now. And then it was like a picture of Steve Cohen like scolding children at a dinner table.
Which is, again, unbelievable that would be the headline, the picture that's being put out there. And then the New York Post one-upped themselves on Monday.
Oh, yeah, God, I forgot
Because
about that one.
This is a headline. Former Mets manager Mickey Callaway's warning after star exodus. It better work.
Yeah, like who fucking cares what that asshole has to say? Why are we even asking for his opinion? That's like breaking news. Baby says might be sunny tomorrow. Oh, okay, cool. You don't know anything. Mickey Callaway's disgraced. He shouldn't be in headlines at all.
Best reply was from Matt Williams, who's a betting analyst, who's a Mets fan. He goes, "Was Deshaun Watson unavailable for comment?"
Nice.
I quote tweeted, "Be like, thank God we had to hear what Mickey Callaway had to say." And someone was like, "Where's Art Howe?" Like, I just can't believe that's a headline the New York Post ran with. But again, I do think that it's not revisionist history because these were good players. But I do think that all three of those guys, Nedvin Diaz, Pete Alonso, Brand Nemo, have probably already had their best season, right?
I think that's fair to say. The thing that sucks about, like, that automatically like gives like they've had their best season, like they're cooked almost.
No.
Where like Pete could still be like 130 WRC plus for the next 3 seasons, but his best was like 140.
Definitely. And there was also great reporting from Jared Seiler, again, Baseball Prospectus, had a nice article about what Pete did last year to kind of turn himself into this better hitter, shortened up his swing, got that bat speed up while he did that. But also the contact rate in the zone fell a lot. We've talked a lot about that specifically with Brandon Nimmo over the last 2 years. Like when you start to see that contact rate in the zone go down, like that is a clear indication of aging. So like I understand if they thought 5 years was just too big of a risk for someone who they saw some signs of aging on that. Like, again, that makes sense. It's just it.
And I still think, too, at the end of the day, there is something about, and this is not a negative on those guys at all, like Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso, when Jeff McNeil inevitably gets traded. Like, that was kind of like that was a little bit like a weird situation where they'd been there for 6 years. They had come up with this Mets organization, and it kind of felt like it could have been their team, and then all of a sudden it wasn't anymore, and it became Lindor's team, and then all of a sudden Juan Soto comes in, and now it's really not their team as much anymore. I'm sure there is just not a culture problem. I'm not saying that, but I'm sure there is just like a weird juxtaposition of like all of a sudden you look around and the team's not really what it ever was.
It's kind of like how much you keep wanting running it back with the exact same core. And I don't want to always invoke this team, but I think the line's been set enough about wanting to be the Dodgers of the East and us feeling like sometimes that's really far away. But the way that Dodgers team changed a lot between 2018 and 2022 to allow themselves the space to, again, first acquire and extend Mookie Betts and then Freddie Freeman, then eventually Ohtani.
They
and
let
Yamamoto.
Corey Seager walk.
And he won the World Series MVP the next year before they'd actually won a real World Series themselves. Like that is, imagine if Pete Alonso was the World Series MVP next year.
I will be
happy
for him, depressed.
I'm sorry they conflate that because I think Corey Seager's a much better player than Pete Alonso. But like it is, sometimes you do have to make those hard decisions. And those guys, they play a lot of baseball together. And again, not that, like you said, the culture was bad or anything, but you also do want to afford the other players on your team the chance to grow up a little bit and possibly get into those leadership roles. We saw Brett Beatty as like the headline Mets player who was at the Queens Baseball Convention over the weekend. Like you see him with a mic, talk about being a Met, talk about all the growth he's had.
Brett Beatty might have gotten booed at the Queens Baseball Convention last year before the
literally.
season started. There's a chance
Might
that
have,
like
100%.
people would have booed him when he walked on stage. Not us. Always Brett
No.
Beatty believers. Shout Brett Beatty. I love him. But like even Francisco Alvarez, like coming in as like a leader.
Give
We
some
know
space.
that's something that he's talked about before too. I think where the Mets are going to go by the end of the season, I hope, is a lot better than what it looks like right now. I think every fan has every right to feel nervous and worried and upset. But I am going to blindly trust because also I can't do anything. So
No, we can't do anything else.
all I can do is sit back and hope that it turns out good because I really have no impact.
There's also probably just like a little bit of an idea of, again, we mentioned this with Jorge Polanco on Saturday. Why don't you just change the cocktail in the clubhouse a little bit? Like, I don't think it's an accident that when the first 2 big moves of the offseason, I guess, for position players was bringing in Marcus Semien and Jorge Polanco, guys who are like, again, definitely good on the field. Marcus Semien certainly his best years behind him. Jorge Polanco we just hope to kind of maintain here. But guys who are known around the game as being dudes, clubhouse guys, like go about their business, do their work, like guys who can like be real, earnest professionals in that clubhouse. We talked about it a lot, and we gave the Mets credit for this over the last year, but almost the entire position player group, besides Lindor and Soto, were Mets developed. We talked about the fact that when Pete and Nimmo and to a lesser degree McNeil kind of came up through this Mets system, you kind of got used to losing when you were in the Mets minor leagues 8 years ago. Like those were some of the worst based on team performance minor league teams every single year.
So
the depth in the organization was bad.
Which is honestly incredible how well their actual players turned out.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, again, Mets scouting, Mets drafting's been great for a very long time now. Shout out Tommy Tanis on the Rockies now, in the Rockies organization. But you just may need to change things up a little bit. Add some new guys to the mix. Like create a different environment. Not that the one before was bad, but I don't think it was additive either, based on what's happened the last 4 years collectively.
I think it is fair to say let's try something different. I think it's fair. It sucks as a fan's perspective because we love these guys, but I can understand it. I don't like it, but I can understand it, and that's all I can really do. So let's end the episode with this, James, because I think that's pretty much all the rumors, right?
Yeah, I think so. It feels like
let's take a look right now at the Mets active roster, and let's just name some guys that we think will not be on this active roster by opening day. Because I think that's where this ends, because we mentioned the trade markets where we think the Mets are going to be the most active. So,
yeah,
Kodai Senga, is he on this team, yes or no?
I think you get one of Kodai Senga or David Peterson, but maybe not both.
Okay, I was going to say, you got to pick one. You got to pick one.
All right, I think that Senga stays, Peterson gets traded.
Okay, of the pitching prospects, do you think that one of Tong, Sproat, Christian Scott get moved? And which one, if you do?
I'm starting to think none of those guys get moved.
Okay, I like
and
that.
if there's one that's most likely to, I would say Sproat.
Slog of infielders, Acuna, Mark Vientos, and I'll even throw Brett Beatty's name in there just because I think he would be in a package to get a premier player.
Yeah.
Who do you think's gone from that group?
At this point, I'd be shocked if anything went with Brett Beatty. I do think that across the league right now, like Brett Beatty is viewed as a guy that's like a real piece. I'm not telling you he's a cornerstone. I'm not telling you he's a franchise player, but I think a lot of baseball teams would be better off having Brett Beatty on them.
He's like one of the 15 best third basemen in the league, probably.
Yeah, probably. That's just a great spot for him to live. But like, I think that being said, I think that he stays, but I don't think it's impossible he gets moved. I would be shocked. And I think that Acuna is almost guaranteed gone.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a spot for him on this team. Vientos,
I keep flip-flopping on. Like, every day I have a different opinion if he's going to be on this team next year, right? Like, doesn't it feel like that? Like, even just getting a big headline on Monday that Scott Boras is now his agent.
That almost makes me think they're going to trade him more.
I guess, but like, I'm starting to get myself back on the Mark Vientos redemption tour right now.
Yeah? Any reason why?
It's like kind of the same thing with Brett Beatty last year. It's like I like buying low, and I think right now is like as low as you're going to be able to buy Mark Vientos. Like I still think there's
for his career, he has to be better. Otherwise, it's going to be a career that doesn't last very long.
Yeah, just because as a right-handed hitter with no defensive ability and no athleticism whatsoever, but like there's still probably 25 homer bat in Mark Vientos, but it just probably comes with a 310 on base percentage.
Yeah.
And like that for some teams that's untenable, but for a team like the White Sox who can give someone DH reps, for a team like the Cardinals who can kind of just let him grow and see what happens with 4 years of team control of Mark Vientos, like there probably is some good legitimate value there. Even a team like the Padres who don't have a DH right now.
No, he'd be a great DH for them.
If you could tell Mark Vientos, like, get the frosted tips back and just be our DH and we're giving you 450 plate appearances this year, like, it's going to be a great time. At least if you can just mash lefties, like, he'll have a job forever, kind of to a degree.
Yes.
But I think that going out and signing Jorge Polanco is kind of a shot across the bow with that whole group of position players where it's like we just can't wait on this anymore. Like we want a veteran who can play his positions and we know can hit.
How many times did we say last year, just any sort of production out of those guys and we make the playoffs?
It also makes me think back at like the poor strategy we had going through the offseason last year with pitching, where I think that David Stearns knew that in the future we would get a nice flow of pitchers that were going to come up through and we're going to be confident, who were going to be very cheap, affordable, under team control, and we could trust as depth. But I think he knew that was at least 18 months, maybe 1 calendar year away. So you had to jump the market, reverse the way I think is going on right now. You had to get volume because if the Mets missed on the musical chairs of pitchers last year, you would have just signed Juan Soto and gone with a bad rotation.
It would have been really bad.
It would have been perceived much worse. It wound up being horrific anyway. But I do think that there was at least an effort there to be like, let's jump the market now because we don't have any kind of fallback options. We wound up exactly having no fallback options, and then the primary options also sucked ass.
I think people felt okay being with the rotation that the Mets came into the season with.
They felt like it was not good, but it wasn't the worst in the league.
Yeah.
It wound up being one of the worst in the league.
And then one I'm going to ask you. There's going to have to be one more outfielder on this team that's not on the roster right now. You can't pick someone in the organization. Who's it going to be?
It's oddly to two of my faves, Lars Nootbaar and Luis Robert. I think it winds up being Robert.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
There's been so much smoke for so long about this. It just seems like the match.
Yeah, I want Robert. I know Nootbaar is like a good player, but Nootbaar feels like a high floor guy, which maybe that's exactly why David Stearns would want him. But
yeah, exactly.
He feels like a higher floor where I don't know what Nootbaar's ceiling is, where like Robert, again, if he ever goes back to being like 80% the player that he was, it's like, holy shit.
And he did it for like 3 weeks last year before he got injured. It's just, I'm not going to pretend there's going to be a consistency there, but like maybe just give it a shot.
We would love to know what you guys are thinking down in the comment section below. I'm sure you're going to let us know. We get a lot of comments and we love seeing it. So we really do appreciate all the big support you guys have been giving us. Don't forget to subscribe to Mets'd, again, on YouTube and on audio side, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. Check out the link in the description to the Mets'd shop if you want to grab some merch. Send us pictures of anything that you get. We'll retweet you. We'll post you everywhere as long as you want that to happen. You can follow James on social media at
James Shiano.
I'm Giraffe Neck Mark. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.
Peace out, guys. Let's go Mets.